In 1969, 1 out of every $200 spent in the American economy was spent at Sears. Not 1 out of every 200 retail dollars. Not grocery dollars. Every dollar. Groceries, rent, gasoline, cars, taxes, all of it. 0.5% of the entire U.S. economy ran through one company's cash registers. Sears was bigger than Amazon, Walmart, and Target combined, relative to the economy of its day. It built the tallest building in the world. It sold you the house you lived in, the appliances inside it, the clothes you wore, the life insurance that protected you, and the credit card you paid for it all with. Today, there are fewer than a dozen Sears stores left in the United States. This is the story of how America's first everything store lost everything. And the villain, spoiler alert, wasn't Amazon. If you're new here, this channel tells the financial stories behind the brands you grew up with, the ones that shaped American life and then somehow disappeared. Today we're digging into maybe the biggest corporate collapse in modern retail history. Because Sears isn't just a dead department store. For more than 100 years, it was the company that quietly built the middle class. It taught America how to shop by mail, how to buy on credit, how to live in the suburbs. And then, in roughly 15 years, it was gutted, stripped, and killed. Not by the internet, not by Walmart, but largely by one man and one strategy. Stick around. What happened to Sears is happening to a lot of companies right now, and most people don't see it. The year is 1886. Richard Warren Sears is 22 years old, working as a railroad station agent in a tiny Minnesota town called North Redwood. Population, barely anybody. One day a shipment of gold-filled pocket watches shows up at his station. The local jeweler refuses to accept them. Richard Sears sees an opportunity. He contacts the manufacturer, buys the watches himself at a discount, and sells them down the railroad line to other station agents, guys who, like him, were bored, had a telegraph machine, and wanted to make an extra buck. Within 6 months, Sears clears $5,000 in profit. In 1886 dollars. That's roughly $160,000 today. He quits the railroad and starts the R.W. Sears Watch Company. The next year, he moves to Chicago and hires a watch repairman named Alva Roebuck. In 1893, they put their names on the door, Sears, Roebuck and Company. Here's what made Sears explode. In the 1890s, roughly 2/3 of Americans lived in rural areas. The local general store was expensive, had terrible selection, and the shopkeeper had a monopoly. Sears looked at that and said, "What if we used the U.S. Postal Service as our distribution network? What if a farmer in Nebraska could open a book, the Sears catalog, and order literally anything in modern life, shipped to his door, at a price lower than the guy down the road could ever match?" By 1897, the catalog was over 500 pages. Clothes, sewing machines, bicycles, guns, violins, wagons, farm equipment. Sears was, functionally, Amazon, 125 years before Amazon. And the Sears Wish Book, the Christmas edition, became a ritual in tens of millions of American households. You could literally buy a house from Sears. From 1908 to 1940, Sears sold mail-order house kits, 75,000 of them, shipped by rail in pieces, assembled on your lot. Some of those homes are still standing today, worth a fortune. In 1906, Sears goes public. The IPO raises $40 million, about $1 billion in today's money, and it's the first major retail IPO in American financial history. In 1924, Sears joins the Dow Jones Industrial Average, where it will remain for 75 years. Then in 1925, Sears does the thing that truly made it an empire. It opens its first physical retail store. The suburbs are exploding. Americans have cars. Sears meets them there. By 1931, retail store sales pass catalog sales. By the 1950s, Sears is the undisputed king of American retail. At its peak, Sears owns Allstate Insurance. It owns Dean Witter, the brokerage. It owns Coldwell Banker, the real estate firm. It launches Discover Card. In 1973, it opens the tallest building in the world, the Sears Tower in Chicago. 110 stories, a middle finger to the sky that says, "We built this country." Here's where it starts to go wrong. In the 1980s, Sears management looks around and sees slowing retail growth. Their answer? Diversify. Become a financial services conglomerate. Stocks, insurance, real estate, credit cards, all under one roof. The marketing slogan was, "Socks to stocks." At a finance level, this is exactly the kind of empire building that looks brilliant in a board deck and is disastrous in practice. Management's attention got split 6 ways. The core business, selling things to people, stopped being the priority. While Sears was buying brokerage firms, Sam Walton was quietly building 200, 500, 1,000 Walmart stores in the small towns Sears thought were too small to bother with. Everyday low prices, ruthless supply chain efficiency, a culture obsessed with one thing, being the cheapest. In 1990, Walmart passed Sears in total sales. After more than a century of being number one, Sears was number 2, and it would never be number 1 again. Meanwhile, internally, Sears was sabotaging itself. Former employees described the exact moment things cracked. In the 1980s, corporate cut commissions on major categories: vacuum cleaners, power tools, ready-to-wear. The floor staff who had turned Sears into a customer service legend suddenly had no reason to care. Then corporate took away store managers' ability to choose their own merchandise mix. Every store had to look identical, no matter whether it was in Miami or Minneapolis. Managers who had tripled sales by actually knowing their customers quit in droves. By the early 2000s, Sears had shed Allstate, shed Dean Witter, shed Discover Card. Every one of those spin-offs is now worth tens of billions of dollars independently. Sears itself was wounded, bleeding market share, and looking for a savior. In 2005, a savior appeared. Kind of. Eddie Lampert is a hedge fund manager. He runs ESL Investments, and he has a reputation as a genius. He buys distressed retailers for cheap and extracts value. In 2003, he takes control of a bankrupt Kmart. In 2004, he starts buying up Sears stock. In 2005, he merges them into Sears Holdings. On paper, this was supposed to be brilliant. 2 iconic brands, combined scale, $55 billion in revenue, about 3,800 stores. Financial media called Lampert the next Warren Buffett. Sears Holdings stock went up. Everybody was happy. But here's the thing about hedge fund guys running retailers. They don't actually care about the retail. What Lampert did next is, depending on who you ask, either financial engineering or asset stripping. You can decide for yourself. Sears owned some of the most valuable real estate in America. Iconic mall anchor locations. So Lampert spun them off into a separate company called Seritage Growth Properties, a real estate investment trust. Sears Holdings became a tenant on its own land, paying rent to a landlord controlled by its own chairman. He sold off Craftsman, the crown jewel tool brand, to Stanley Black & Decker for about $900 million. He sold Land's End. He let Kenmore wither. And all along the way, Sears Holdings did massive stock buybacks, over $5 billion of them, which propped up the share price in the short term and, not coincidentally, benefited the largest shareholder. Who was Eddie Lampert? The after-bankruptcy lawsuit, filed by Sears' own estate, alleged that Lampert and his insiders transferred billions of dollars of assets out of the company for, quote, grossly inadequate consideration. That lawsuit was eventually settled in 2022 for $175 million, with Lampert and co-defendants contributing about $42 million, and neither side admitting wrongdoing. While all this financial engineering was happening, the actual stores were falling apart. There are viral photos and videos from this era that became memes. Entire departments empty, merchandise piled in corners, ceilings literally leaking. Lampert famously almost never visited his own stores. He ran the company by video conference from a mansion in Florida. He refused to spend capital on store renovations because, from a purely financial standpoint, the stores were dying. So why invest in them? That is exactly the kind of logic that destroys a company. If you don't invest in the stores, customers stop coming. If customers stop coming, sales fall. If sales fall, you can't justify investing. It's a death spiral, and Lampert managed it like a spreadsheet until the spreadsheet finally ran out of cells. On October 15, 2018, Sears Holdings filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. At that point, from a peak of about 2,700 stores in 2011, they were down to around 700. In early 2019, Lampert bought the bankrupt remains of his own company at a bankruptcy auction for about $5 billion through a new entity called Transform Co. He kept maybe 400 stores open. A year later, half of those were gone. And today, in 2026, there are fewer than 10 Sears stores left in the entire United States. Here's the lesson, and I think it's bigger than just one company. The story of Sears is usually told as, the internet killed it. That's wrong. Amazon didn't kill Sears. Walmart didn't kill Sears. The internet didn't kill Sears. Sears was a company that, for over a century, quietly built America. It invented mail-order retail. It pioneered consumer credit. It sold affordable appliances to working-class families. It shipped entire houses to homesteads. It was on the Dow for 75 years. And in the end, the company that survived 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the rise of television, the collapse of the catalog business, and the birth of e-commerce. That company was killed by financial engineering, by leadership that valued the spreadsheet more than the store, by a strategy that prioritized extracting value over creating it. That's not a uniquely Sears story. That's a pattern you can see across American retail in the last 20 years. Toys R Us, Red Lobster, Bed Bath & Beyond, Kmart, even parts of Macy's. When hedge funds and private equity get control of a retailer with valuable real estate or valuable brands, the retailer is usually worth more dead than alive, and they act accordingly. Sears didn't fall. Sears was pushed. If your parents bought you your first bike at Sears, if your grandfather had a Craftsman socket set he swore by, if your first apartment came with a Kenmore fridge, you were part of a story that shaped this country, and now that story is mostly gone. The buildings are still there. Some of them are now Dick's Sporting Goods, some are self-storage, some are just empty. But the idea, a single company you could trust to sell you almost anything, fairly, at a price you could afford, that idea died with Sears. Maybe that's what we actually lost. If this story hit you, if it reminded you of something you forgot you missed, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. This channel is building out an entire series on the American brands that shaped our lives and quietly disappeared. Toys R Us, Blockbuster, Kmart, Kodak, and a lot more coming. There's a video on screen right now about insert next video title. Go watch it next. I'll see you in the next one.